All right, Chief.
Yes, sir. At approximately 10:40 p.m., witnesses observed a red Jeep Cherokee pull out of a commercial business parking lot in the 8400 block of Chesapeake Boulevard. Witnesses heard gunshots as the vehicle proceeded southbound on Chesapeake Boulevard. A maroon minivan and its driver, 17-year-old Mark Rodriguez, was struck by gunfire. The van ran off the road, striking a tree in the median. A citizen reported the accident at approximately 10:48 p.m. Norfolk Fire Rescue responded and pronounced Rodriguez dead at the scene at 10:55 p.m. Between 10:40 p.m. and 10:44 p.m., multiple calls were received reporting gunshots in the area of Chesapeake Boulevard and then Southern Shopping Center. A vehicle at Chesapeake Boulevard and Shepherd Street was shot as the red Jeep drove towards East Little Creek Road. At 10:43 p.m., a caller reports that her vehicle was nearly struck by a red Jeep in Southern Shopping Center. During this time frame, Brown shot an unoccupied vehicle parked at the gas pumps at the Shell station at Stanley Street and Tirewater Drive. A vehicle on Tirewater Drive occupied by a woman and her children was also struck in that area. The occupants sustained cuts from broken glass. Brown then proceeded to his residence located in the 7400 block of Wellington Road and pulled up on the front lawn with the vehicle facing southbound. At 10:44 p.m., a call was received reporting that a driver wrecked his vehicle at the location and was shooting a gun from the vehicle's window. Another caller reported at 10:45 p.m. that Brown's vehicle crashed in the front yard. The occupant had exited the vehicle and walked into the house. At 10:46 p.m., an additional caller reported that Brown was outside with a rifle. Officer Allison, who lives in the area, was off duty when he heard the multiple shots. He put on a tactical ballistic vest with his badge displayed, retrieved a service weapon and police radio, and proceeded towards Wellington Road in his personal vehicle. While checking the area, he discovered Brown's vehicle parked haphazardly on the front lawn at the Wellington Road residence. Officer Jones, who was on duty and in the Walmart parking lot at 7530 Tirewater Drive, responded to a shots fired call at 10:43 p.m. He heads towards Wellington Road, where he encounters Officer Allison near the suspect's residence. Officer Jones stopped his vehicle just north of Brown's residence. Brown then came out the front door, at which time Officer Jones turned his spotlight on him. At 10:48 p.m., the Emergency Operations Center restricted the 3rd Patrol Division radio channel, and shots could be heard over the air as one of the officers on scene keyed his microphone. Brown fired multiple rounds from his rifle at Officer Jones and Officer Allison. Officer Jones was struck and fell next to his police vehicle. Officer Allison returned fire with his service weapon while attempting to seek cover. He was struck once in his hip by Brown. Brown retreated into the residence and continued to shoot from inside. Brown then exited the residence and fled south on Wellington Road in his vehicle. Additional officers arrived on scene and rendered aid to Officer Jones and Officer Allison. Officer Jones was transported to Centera Norfolk General Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 12:20 hours a.m. on May 31st, 2014. Officer Allison was treated for his wounds and subsequently released. An officer responding to the scene heard over the police radio an officer yelling shots fired. He then heard that an officer was down and unresponsive. As the officer turned off Tirewater Drive onto Biltmore Road, he observed the red Jeep operated by Brown leaving the area with no lights on. The officer initiated pursuit of Brown's vehicle. The officer reports hearing gunfire and believed that Brown was shooting at him. As Brown approached Little Creek Road on Galveston Boulevard, his vehicle struck a citizen's vehicle, which was traveling westbound on Little Creek Road. The collision caused Brown's vehicle to careen into a parked vehicle on Galveston Boulevard. It appeared that Brown's vehicle rolled several times before coming to a rest at the 7900 block of Galveston Boulevard. The officer approached Brown's vehicle, challenging him as he advanced. Brown failed to respond and stumbled out of the driver's side and walked towards the rear of the vehicle away from the officer. The officer continued to challenge Brown, who started to walk away from him. The officer attempted to take Brown into custody, and a struggle ensued. Fearing that he would be overpowered, the officer shot Brown. The officer reported the suspect down at 10:50 p.m. The suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. We have 3 major crime scenes. We've collected hundreds of pieces of evidence. There are homes and vehicles along the suspect's path where citizens have discovered related damage. We expect that we will receive other such calls. All this evidence is being evaluated where appropriate, sent to the state lab for examination. Dozens of individuals have been interviewed. More will be interviewed as we identify others who can provide information to help us understand how and why this happened. This is an ongoing investigation that involves not only the homicides of 2 individuals, but also a use of deadly force by an officer on a suspect. Ultimately, this investigation will be forwarded to the Office of Commonwealth's Attorney for review of those actions. Like any other criminal investigation, we simply cannot release any details that could harm that process. I want to also point out our community has been extremely supportive of us throughout all of this. They have contacted the officer's family. They have supported our police department. And I want to say thank you to them for doing that. I also want to point out that while all this was going on, while we were undergoing probably the most horrible thing a police department can undergo, our officers were out there doing a job. And they were answering calls for service all over the city, and they were continuing to deliver services to this community. And they're a tough and resilient bunch to be able to do that while we're going through all this, and they've continued to do that. I'm as proud as I can be of them and of their performance in this, the way they have rallied around this family, the way they have rallied around each other. I'm proud of them, and I'm proud to say that I'm part of them. That's all I've got.
Chief, thank you. Chief, on behalf of the council, I mean, you know that we share in that sense of grief that you and the rest of your colleagues on the police department, in fact, that the entire city administration feels as well. And I know you have a young police department, and some of them are really experiencing this sort of loss for the first time. So we are mindful of that, and we want you to know how proud we are of all of them as well.
Yes, sir.
Right. Andy.
Chief, a question about the mental health angle of this shooter. Where are you on being able to find out if there is a mental health angle on him, if there's any type of treatment that he was in? I know his mother was being held at some point at gunpoint within the house. She escaped, according to the pilot this morning. But I'm curious as to what, we know he had run-ins with the law, but what is the mental health aspect on him? Are we exploring that if there was one?
We are doing a complete investigation into Mr. Brown. We are looking at everything to try to determine whether anything was going on, but at this time we are not able to release any information because we're still in the middle of this, trying to run all that down.
All right, and what I'm seeking is basically in talking to his mother and other individuals, if he was in treatment, where was the treatment, any medications he was on at that time? I'm curious as to.
I can't answer that right now, sir.
Okay, but it is an angle we're looking at.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, Chief, again, we appreciate you coming by to give us this briefing. Again, we appreciate that all your folks are doing right now. We're respectfully proud of it.